Welcome. I was waiting to see who was doing it.
You.
Welcome to June 12th, 2024. Yeah, we're excited you're here. Bethany is back from 2 weeks of hiatus. She was away. And so you got to have me a couple weeks ago. And then Cody Moorhead joined us last week. And excuse me, I'm coughing. So we're glad that you're here, Bethany. I missed having you on it. It's nice to have you on it,
Oh, thanks.
on the calls. And so it's been a good couple weeks. Today, honestly, I am like overwhelmed with contracts right now, which is a good thing. So I spent the whole morning sending out contracts for clients or offers and for some co-authors. I think we got a Penguin contract, a new one, a different one that I just found out about yesterday. And I have co-authors on that contract. So that's exciting. And that's on top of all the other stuff. So I've told a few people this. I think I've sold the most books this year up to this point than any other year yet. And so when people say publishing's not going well, it's going well actually. And because of inflation, we're getting more money for these contracts than we've gotten. Although, irrespective to inflation, it may not be as much for the authors. It is much higher terms than we've been getting in the past, especially during COVID. It was awful. So it's been a good season. So for writers, I want that to be encouraging to you. Publishers are buying books mostly from people with platform. We did just get a first debut fiction is the offer I got this morning that we've been working on this morning. And it is because she has platform, but not a lot of platform. She does have platform though, but it's not a significant number. And so I think that's encouraging to a lot of authors. Like platform is helpful because if the platform is engaged, we call it micro platform, like 1,000 followers, 1,000 engagement followers. If you have a smaller platform, but they're engaged, and you have regular ways to connect with them, or you're a speaker, then it opens up a lot more opportunities for you. So those things are really important. So don't think I got to go get 100,000 followers. You might need that for HarperCollins, but you don't necessarily need that for everyone. You might just need 5,000 followers. I think my client's got 2,500 really engaged followers for her fiction, but that's enough for the pub board to say, we like her platform. It's a strong platform. Because for this publisher, 2,500 sales in a year would be a great number of sales. So if she can help that with even 500, could be a really good first title for her. So just something to be aware of. And it's a decent mid-sized publisher. So I think she's really excited. I'm excited for her. And hopefully we'll break in with this book and maybe a follow-up, and then hopefully sell well and jump to a bigger publisher. So that's the nature of the game. And so that's exciting news. But yeah, so I think it's a good time to be in publishing. And I don't know if you know this, Bethany, but there's some new publishing events coming out.
Oh, new
I
events.
just saw, yeah.
I
Like
know.
maybe the book expo is eventually going to come back. I'm hoping, because all these events are starting to pop up. I'm just hoping the book expo comes back. Because Bethany and I have been talking about trying to do a regular, like she and I go to New York together and go meet with publishers. Like we want our Kyle team to head to New York. So
Well,
we
in
really
the
want a
spring,
reason.
Publishers Weekly
So
does like a
an
whole day.
event to go to.
Yeah, they do a whole agenting day up there with the
Yeah.
Publishers Weekly Expo. So
Yeah.
that'd be great if there were more, honestly. Oh,
Oh, and
I'm gonna,
I could tell. I have a client. Go ahead.
oh, I think we're delayed on each other. So sorry about that.
Yeah, you were a little delayed. So go ahead.
I was going to follow up on what you said about having a smaller platform. Just the Penguin contract that I've mentioned, platform was not a big thing, but it was the right story, and it was an evergreen story. And I have been watching the edits come back from the editor at the house to my client, and it's amazing watching someone who is so great at picture books go through this manuscript and just point out a couple of places where she could elevate the story and the writing with the ideas. It has been an incredible thing to watch. My client said this is a project she's been working on for years and tightening it. It wasn't something she just came up with overnight. That was surprising to me, how long she'd been working on it and really honing her craft. And so my advice to anyone who's writing, no matter what you're writing, is she said that she really took classes focusing on humor in picture books, because this is a humor book. And the second project they'd like is also a humor picture book. And so I said, maybe this is the brand. Maybe the brand isn't a theme. Maybe the brand is humor that can be evergreen. So that's been an interesting thing I was looking at last week.
That's good. That's exciting. So that was helpful. I had an author make a confession to me yesterday, and this was my author that got a Penguin contract. And the author told me I know you've been telling me this for years, Kyle, that conferences are not necessarily worth the money anymore because of the lack of industry professionals that are at them. And she said, this year I decided to take your advice and not go to conferences. And I couldn't have made a better choice. She goes, because I've finally spent more time writing. I've spent no money on going to conferences, which I could invest in writing and growing platform and those things. She goes, it's been the best year for me. And she goes, it was really hard because I like the conferences and I like the people. And she goes, it took me a while to listen to that advice, but she goes, I think it's the best thing for my career. And so we'll be very limited. If I told her the only time for her to go to conference as a well-published author is if she's on faculty, not paying for them, and it gives her an opportunity to be paid. And she's taken that advice, and it's been a really good year for her. So I think I'm going to share that same advice to all of our serious writer people. Conferences are a business decision for business purposes. If you want conferences to be your club where you hang out with authors, it's a very expensive club to be in and takes away all the money from other things that you could and maybe should be investing in your writing career, such as learning how to write humor for a humor book writer, or any children's book writer needs to learn how to understand humor in children's books and to have it because humor is so huge. And so those things also cost. And so part of it was she finally took the time to invest in other things instead of investing in the conference. And it has been the best move for her. Now, I'm not saying that conferences weren't a good move for her early in her career, because I think for brand new authors who don't know anything, you should go to conference, like should be your first thing. But we get stuck in a conference rut where we end up just focusing on getting from conference to conference and entering a conference to contest, and we really forget about like the bigger process of publishing and learning and growing outside of that little microcosm world. And sorry, my wife needs my phone. She needs a code. So those are some things to be aware of. I'm glad she took that advice. She, of course, now she has a Penguin contract. She's got another company has just paid her a lot of money to write an article for them. And so those are some major moves that she made in a year of just refocusing. So if you're one of those people who maybe you're stuck in a conference rut, it might be time to think, is this helping me move the dial right now? Or have I learned what I can learn from that? And do I need to maybe invest in something else to move the dial forward for me? I'll be honest, I don't go to conferences anymore unless I'm on faculty. And I go there to find clients and to meet editors. Those are why I go. I'm not really going for teachings and trainings, because a lot of what, like Bethany called me from a conference recently, is like, they're teaching things that are not right, not true, that were true like 5-10 years ago. That's been my experience. Like, it is in somewhat outdated information if you're actively ready to shop your book. And if you're learning craft, great. The craft is generally the same: how to write, the skills, mechanics. Go to a conference. They're great for that. But outside of that, if it's your time to sell, you need to make sure you're picking the right conference, right event, right class that's going to help you sell your book right now.
My mom, who may be popping in here with us, she's, for those of you who don't know Johnny Alexander, she's written like 40 books, but I think 30 of them are published now, or her 29 best-selling. So she took a hiatus from conferences, got started with conferences and went for a few years, then really got into the writing side with lots of contracts. And she just now is going to start going back. And part of the reason is to get back into the networking that she's been out of for a while, and then to hear some updates on what people are saying with regards to craft, which is incredible because I think she's really an incredible writer and teaches a lot of these things. But that break was really good for her too. So that, I love what you said there, because it's important to really understand, is it worth the money that I'm spending to go to this, and what am I going to learn from it? And if a goal is to pitch, really looking at the agents and editors that are going to be there. That's really important. Don,
like we have conferences, but those conferences we try to make it a fire hose of information, so you leave just overwhelmed with information. But again, ours aren't for everybody, and we know that. But if you want to learn, you want to learn a serious amount of information and move you forward in your career, then come to ours. If you're looking to pitch 20 editors, that's not what we schedule ours for. Ours is really about learning what you need to know now in marketing and publicity and writing different genres, and then applying that as you seek agents and editors outside of it. So you got to know what the conference's purpose is to see if that's beneficial for you. So you got a question from the chat.
Dawn had a comment. She said that, I just scrolled away. She said she has a rule that unless she implements everything possible she's learned from a conference, she doesn't let herself go to another one. And I think that's really great advice, because
good, yeah.
you do leave so overwhelmed. And I think too, sometimes writers this is what I've seen over the last 12 years. And Kyle, I know you have seen it too, because we've talked about it, but it's disheartening for me when I see somebody come back year after year to a conference with the same project and they haven't moved the needle, like working on another project or working on platform or anything else. It's just, they're hoping that this time will be the time for the book. And I just think there's so many other things that you could do through the year that can help maybe make it the right time for the book. It may never be the right time for that book. And that's a hard thing to say, but I think all of us have projects that we've shoved into a drawer because it may never see the light of day. It may be time to write something fresh, which is one of my tips for today, actually, is to, especially for children's book, picture book writers, do you have projects or articles or anything that you could start submitting to magazines? I think we neglect the magazine world. And I think a lot of writers have a lot of really great content that they're so focused on putting into a book that they neglect the fact that they could be building a platform and getting their name out and reaching readers if they would start submitting some of these projects to magazines. Because not every project is going to make it into book form, and we're just holding on to things. I think we've all got a graveyard of projects that could be refreshed into a magazine article. That's my tip. My homework for the summer is let's all try to publish something in a magazine.
Yeah. No, I think it's good. And I just had a call with a client. I just said, we're working on a new project for a publisher. It's a really nice, big idea. I like the big idea. And so here's the advice I gave. And I think it's good for anyone. This is a nonfiction specific advice. If writing nonfiction, go write a TEDx talk and then turn it into a book. Because like TEDx talk is an 18-minute talk, very focused, very specific, very user sensitive, and there needs to be takeaway and information and training, and then turn that into the book and use your big idea to formulate the talk. I just had a lady in our local area do this on joy, went and did TEDx Detroit, and now is flying to Australia. She's going to Chicago. She got all these booking gigs solely from going to and knocking out the TEDx talk and then having the content to go along with it and the book to go along with it. So those are some things that you need to be aware of. If you want to be successful, go. And if you don't know what a TEDx is, then you got to research TEDx, go watch some TEDx speakers. They're dynamic, they're focused, and you got to have your big idea. And then you got to do it in a way that's TEDx, because ultimately the goal, Beth, and you know this for nonfiction, you want to do a TEDx talk. You want to do a TED talk. That is the success. If you get success, you're going to be asked by TED to do a talk. And so at some point, so you need to go ahead and have a framework of how that's going to look. And so if you go ahead and get the talk idea, then you can pitch the talk after writing the book. Plus you have the content, you have it all thought through. And so I think that's great advice. That's what she's going to go back to do as we're putting together this. And hopefully she'll get that done, make that into the chapter by chapter summary. And then we'll start knocking out some chapters here this summer that I can pitch for her in the fall. Just be aware of it. She doesn't have a huge platform, but she does have the credibility, and her platform of being a professional who's done this for 25 years will help carry her in the nonfiction space for this project, I think. So that's what we're doing in that nonfiction. So if you want for those of you who are nonfiction writers, that could be a way for you to take a different angle on what you're doing for nonfiction right now, is use like the TEDx approach to getting the content where you need to be before you put it in the proposal.
That's really good advice. Also for nonfiction, I wanted to share some tidbits I got from the Blue Ridge conference. I got to sit down for a few quick minutes with the editor from Christian Arts and Gifts. I call it CA Gifts. I'm not really sure if there's an and in there. And basically here's the download of what they're looking for. And so I wanted to share this with you guys. 3 things they're specifically looking for right now are daily Advent devotional, daily Lent devotional. And so that's that's different days for each one of those. It's not a 30-day. You would have to do it for the days for each one of those. And then the third thing that they're looking for,
Lent and Advent are 40 days.
I thought I saw somewhere, because I looked it up because he mentioned 28. And then I thought I saw that Advent could be 22 to 28 days, depending on the calendar.
Advent could be short. Oh, Lent's 40 days. Advent is 4 Sundays essentially. So it can be 20. Yeah, it can be 22.
That's why he said 28.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would focus on a 28 day that they could shorten it to 22 as my tip. And then the third thing that he was most excited about and most wanting is 365-day devotionals. And here's the inside info. 100 words, a prayer, and a verse. And then nothing that is design heavy. He talked about how they have their own designers on there. So they're not looking for anything that would require a lot of photography or a lot of design work, something that is just very easy for someone to pick up and buy as gifts. So that's my inside tips from the conference from editors. CA gifts.
Cool. Yeah, you've been gone, but you've been learning, working, so it's good. So some of the things that, if people have questions in chat, we can go over some questions. What I've been working on lately has been a lot of nonfiction. That's just been good. We've been working on nonfiction. That seems to be moving right now. Nonfiction is a very steady market for those of you who are nonfiction writers. But the key is, what is your book's premise? What is your big idea that's going to be unique and different? I keep coming back to that over and over again with things I see and things that I pitch. That's the constant feedback. How is this different? How is this different? How is this different? And it needs to be different. It can't be the same. It can't be just, this is my unique approach to it. It's got to be so transformative. And I'll give you an example, Bethany. You and I both love personality profiles. And so you like the Myers-Briggs profile. I like the DISC profile, DISC. The DISC is the older of the profiling, going back like 100 years or so. Myers-Briggs is, I think, 80 some years. So they're both very old. But what has happened is people keep teaching this same exact concept in different ways. We've talked about a few times, 16personalities.com is what Myers-Briggs essentially is, and DISC, because Myers-Briggs is just a fleshed out version of DISC. So it's just, the original has just been taken. Enneagram is a fleshed out version of the DISC. We have a book that I have, Surrounded by Idiots, is the new DISC profile book.
What's it
So
called?
Surrounded by Idiots.
Oh, okay. I'm going to type that in the chat real quick. I feel like
it's just finding Hero Maker as another version of these projects. People just keep coming up with taking the same teaching and put a new idea spin in it. And so here's Hero Maker, but I'm going to teach you how to be a Hero Maker in 8 different ways using DISC. And they don't necessarily say we're using DISC. They're using DISC. They're using Myers-Briggs. If you know any of these things, Surrounded by Idiots is actually DISC. Like, they just changed the 4 things up. And so it's talking about how you relate to your people in your life, your coworkers, and that's in a different genre. So like, you can figure out how to do these things. The Enneagram really is just the religious version of it. And so those are some of the things that you can do, is what is my idea that's different and unique to teach a concept that's timeless, that people want to know. And for a lot of people in the religious market, how do you teach the concept like joy in a different way? What's the different package? What do I teach in the secular market? What about business? What about sales? How many sales books are out there? There's tons of them, but the newest, biggest sales book is one that just has the F word in the cover. So it just depends. It's the same sales book you've seen 100 times, just with a in-your-face title and in-your-face writing. There's nothing different in the book. I have a friend that just told me he read it. He says, it's great. Like, I learned all about, he's like, it's no different than anything else I've read. It's just more gritty. It's a new package. It's a big idea. So what's the big idea for your genre? If you look at, like, in fiction, it's the same thing. We've been talking about how the book that's dominating everything right now is Fourth Wave. It's the Fourth Wing, sorry. But Fourth Wing, there's nothing new in that book. There's nothing new. It's a bunch of concepts that have been done before by other authors, all put together in a new package. And yeah, it's got a little Divergent in there. It's got a little Harry Potter in there. It's got a little Dragonheart in there. It's got a little Game of Thrones in there. You take all that smashed together, and it's got romance in there. So you've got a new book with a new big idea, but nothing in there is original, like as a concept. And so some of the things you have to be aware of is, what is the big idea that is the new package, that you can bring back something that's been done many times before in a new, familiar, like, new way that seems unique, but is also familiar to the reader.
Yes. Look up or start Googling, if you're writing fiction, the term genre blending, which is really what romantasy is, which is Fourth Wing is dominating that space right now. And it's become its own category. Like we've mentioned before, Goodreads now has a reader's choice category. Publishers are specifically asking for romantasy type books. It's become its own thing, which is funny because the new adult category, which is that sort of older YA, but not really fully adult, people have been trying to have that be its own category for years. And it's still not like widely accepted. Only some editors will take a new adult book. And yet here we have romantasy, which is a genre. So it's a little bit different, which has just dominated so profoundly that the market is shifted to let it come in as its own thing. So it's been crazy to watch that happen. But look up genre blending, because a lot of times you can put a unique spin on something. Like I'm always looking for cozy mysteries that have a blend of another genre. So it's always sticking to the rules of a cozy mystery so that the cozy mystery readers will still like it and love it, but having an element of another genre that's sort of blended into it. I love those types of stories. And so that's just a personal thing with the cozy mysteries. But
Right.
look up whatever you're writing and see if there is a genre blend that would be easy to match. And I think, Kyle, you've talked about this before. My last tip on this is you have to make sure that the genres that you're blending are readers of the same genre. They're going to be reading in both. So if you're going to blend horror with something sweet, that may or may not work. You're going to try to find maybe something else that horror can blend with versus like a sweet romance. It's probably not you probably don't have the same readers for both of those things. Or an Amish romance and horror probably is not. You might actually get away with that. So, Mom, are you in here? You want to write some?
Right.
Or I think it would be horror as the main.
Or Amish.
You'd be blending in the Amish. I don't think you could go Amish romance and blend in the horror. Mom, what do you? She said no thanks.
No thanks.
She's not interested in that.
That's funny. So I think that's good. It's good blend. What's the blend? And I think that if we took more time, this works in children's too. Like I've seen the same story written different ways. I had a different client call. We've had some really successful clients in the last couple months. It's been good. But one is called because there's a potential contract coming through on a book that is really just a reimagined book. And she's doing it with a co-author, but the co-author is somebody who reimagined and got a contract for taking a general market book and just making a religious version of it. And they did that twice. And so the book that they're writing now is another book that is just taking a very popular topic, popular series in the general market for children's picture books and just reimagining it for a different market. And yeah, I'm excited about the pitch. I think actually we'll do really well with the pitch. We've got a good pair of team together that'll have a decent platform. And I think I've got 3 or 4 publishers that will be interested in the pitch because they're looking for that type of thing. Everybody wants the next Berenstain Bears. Everybody does. They tell me this. So they're not wanting you to write something different. They want you to find a different version of the Berenstain Bears that'll sell again and sell millions and millions of copies. Everybody wants the Treehouse books. Everybody, Magic Treehouse. Everybody wants the next one. Yeah. So if you can create that, then you can ultimately find with the big idea, then you can find an audience and you'll find an opportunity.
I was walking in Target the other day. We were taking Jeremy for last minute things. And it was so fun to see, even in another city than what I normally see the books in my space at my Target. It's the same books always popping up on those end caps. And it's the ones that are these big ideas, like How to Babysit a Grandpa. It's genius. How to Train a Unicorn. Because you can train all kinds of things. You can train dragons. You can train anything. And then How to Babysit Anyone. And they've even taken that series in another direction too. There's so much life to be had there. And when someone falls in love with those types of books, they want all of them in the series, like the llama books. Those were some of my favorite, even as an adult, favorite children's books with the rhyme and just the funniness of it. So if you're, whatever genre you're writing in, you should be checking the bestseller list every time that it's published. You can look at it for free. I think on Publishers Weekly, they have the list, and start to see what kinds of books are always popping up in that space. I know for a fact an editor told me he checks it every time it comes out, and it's always humor driven what does it call it? Humorous character driven series for picture books. And that's what he's looking at, because those are the ones that always go to the top. And as an editor, he wants to bring in books that are going to go to the top there. And so he's watching that cycle. And we should be doing the same thing with no matter what genre we're writing, see what's at the top.
Right.
We have a question.
No, it's good. Yeah, go for it. Joanna says, what is the best thing for me to focus on besides building a platform? Get to a conference to learn, get an agent. I do have picture books that I've written. If you are brand new and haven't been to a conference, I think you need to get to a conference. To me, you need to go to a conference first, not a half-day conference. You need to get to a full conference, because there is an experience of learning and getting a full fledged out understanding of the industry from other authors, from professionals, from agents and editors. You want one that agents and editors are at. I think that's worth your time. If you don't have agents and editors, then like I think you're missing out on the teachings that come from the pros that are telling you what to do right now. I think you want to sit and hear an editor say, do this, an agent say, do this. Authors can tell you, but authors are often only know their very limited perspective of the industry pertaining to their genre and their style and when they were published. If they haven't been published currently, things have changed a lot in the last 5 years. So if they're published 5+ years ago, things are significantly different in the industry now than when they were publishing. So I think you want to find a really good faculty list, and you can look through and see what they do, where they work at. It's pretty easy to find out. If you will go to something like our intensive, that's a great thing to do because you're going to get perspectives from agents, people who have been editors. You're going to have professionals, and it's going to be a fire hose. If you want somewhere where you want to go pitch, since you have stories, then you want to find somewhere that's taking pitches and that you can pitch to an agent or to an editor. I think a conference is a really good thing, and find something more local in a bigger city, especially like a publishing city where there's publishers. You're more likely to find editors these days. And but platform's a no brainer. But I think conference is next, and then the agent you need to get into the most of the biggest publishers, and an agent can help you in a lot of ways. But I think if you don't learn first, the agents, you're not going to know what you need to know to attract an agent. So I would say get to where you can make sure that you have everything the way an agent wants or needs it before you start pitching agents. So you don't inadvertently get a no from an agent. You might get a yes from if you had spent the time to do things a little differently in the next few months to get ready to pitch an agent.
I think
So
too,
sorry.
because you've got picture books already written, make sure that, and I'm sure you've done this, so this is just general advice, make sure that they're lining up with some of the books that have been released recently to make sure the style is similar, and make sure you've got comps that are within the last 3 to 5 years. I think that's really important because styles can change in picture books pretty quickly. And then if you can't get physically to a conference, a lot of them have virtual appointments because we understand not everybody can actually get there. And then I think the third layer, if you can't do a virtual conference, go look at a conference and see the kind of classes that they're teaching, and then try to piecemeal those classes as you can find them somewhere else. So at least you're getting some kind of education on that. We met at a conference, we started out at conferences, so that is where we're coming from. Like we see so much value in them. And there's different ways. And now with everything online, it's a lot easier to get access to that. And then here in Series Writer, we try to tell you guys the things that you would learn at conferences too. So we love it when you have questions come in because we'll give you a mini conference every week.
Yeah. Yeah. Being that you're part of Series Writer, a conference may not be the next thing. If you're learning and you're applying everything, you're showing up for everything, you're asking questions, and we're basically giving you the information you're going to get at a conference and a whole bunch more. But if you need the networking, you're going to have to network. If you want to network with agents editors, you're going to have to go to a conference and do. Yeah.
Okay. So Kyle and I time Kyle has flown 4 weeks ago, I think. You and I were actually literally going through the list of children's publishers in the general market versus the Christian market. And so I think that this is something important. If you're writing in the Christian market for children's picture books, there's 4, maybe 5 places an agent can send to. Because I wrote it on an index card, Kyle, while we were talking. I think
well, there's more, but they're not really worth it for an
agent
to send it to because
right.
you're not gonna make any money. Yeah.
So you may not need an agent to start making some of your picture books.
Yeah. And the general market, you're pretty much going to have an agent. Yeah. For any reputable publisher, you're going to need to have an agent. So it's just the way it is. The agents are the gatekeepers.
Oh,
I actually think it should be more that way than in the religious market, just because it creates so much problem when you don't use an agent. What a publisher sometimes will do, especially smaller publishers, is try to get you outside of an agent because they want you to get to agree to their terms because it's in their best interest to have the best terms for them. An agent's job is only to protect your interests and nothing else. And so, yes, you may have to pay an agent part of what you make, but they're protecting you from making really bad decisions. So you just gotta make the wise decisions for your business. This is a business. Publishing is a business. It can be a hobby for some, but when you start publishing professionally, it is a business, and you should treat it as a business. Make good business decisions.
I put this in. Sorry.
Yeah. I was just reading. Bitsy Kemper has a list of 100+ publishers who don't need an agent for you to submit. Yeah. Picture books.
I wanted to say too, I don't like the term gatekeeper for agents, and I'll tell you why. I think the editors are the gatekeepers. Because the way I see it, if you think of like a castle, this is the vision. If there's a castle and the writers have those big like ramrod things to break down the doors, I feel like an agent comes alongside the writer and grabs hold of that with them to try to break through the gate. Because the editors are the ones who are deciding if the house can even take it. And sometimes they do it based on personal preference instead of maybe what's best for the house. So I
Yeah.
would say that the editors are the gatekeepers and
I
we're the
think the agents, I think the agents on top of the, I think the agents on top of the wall yelling back to the king, can we let him in? Can we please let him in? Yeah, but whatever. Same, similar. Yeah. So I got a question here. Oh, is it?
Sorry for the delay, y'all. We're talking over each other. It's my fault.
Can you submit your general market? Can you submit your general market pubs to if your agent's too busy? No, no. The agents. If you submit outside of your agent to a general market publisher who only takes from agents, you'll probably be flagged as a problem to the editor. Yeah, like yeah, that I would. They have a process they like to work through. They'd like to the way it works. And if you submit, say somebody wants something in a general market, if it's Penguin wants something from you and they say, do you have an agent? And you say, yes, they're going to say, great, have your agent talk to me and we'll continue the conversation. They will not talk to you outside the agent. They don't want to get sued either. Like people are so sue happy. Like their job is to protect the publisher and to protect themselves. So like people get really upset and they start having conversations. And you also realize you have contracts with agents. So if you're going outside your agent, like it causes all kinds of relationship issues. You got to work through your team in the time frame that it works out best for everyone involved. So just be aware. Colleen Coble wrote a book called Anathema. That was Amish horror murder mystery. Oh, go.
I love because we were talking about doing a blend. So
Yeah.
there is a blend. That's why you have to do your market research to see if there are books that are already out there. And obviously it worked. Now it either worked because it was Colleen Coble or it worked because of the genre. You have to look at that too, because the mega bestsellers can write anything.
Right.
Get away with it. So that's really cool though. Oh yeah. And I wanted to follow up on what you just said, because I know we're getting close to wrapping up, but like you said, the bigger houses, they even during these pitch events on Twitter that I talk about all the time, the editors at bigger houses will say, when you find an agent, have them send it to me. That is pretty much always
Yeah.
the phrasing.
Yeah, they'll say they won't even take it. They'll be like, go and find an agent and then send it to me.
Send it to me.
And here's the problem with that. You think because someone's telling you this, because I've had this happen to me. I've had people tell me, get it. When you have an agent, tell me, send it to me. You think they're going to buy it because they told me to get an agent. Then your agent sends it in and they reject it right away. It's devastating, but they're not going to work with you without an agent, which means they're not even looking at it. They're not even telling you they're interested or not because they have to work through an agent. That's a lot of the company requirements of these big companies. So don't necessarily think it means if you get an agent, you're going to get a deal. I've had a lot of editors send me clients. None of those editors actually ever signed any of those books that they sent me. So they just basically said, hey, you need an agent. Check out this guy. I like this guy. But it doesn't mean they're going to buy the book. So just be aware of that. It's just how they have to work. And a lot of those are Penguin and HarperCollins editors that I'm friends with. Like they want to help me find good clients, but that doesn't mean they're going to acquire the book still. Usually it comes down the platform, to be honest with you, why they can't. But they know they're a good writer. So they usually want me to help them build platform. Like that's typically what editors say is, hey, this person could be really good. They're a great writer, but they have no platform. Maybe if they work with you as an agent, they'll build platform. 90% of the time they don't. It all come up to me. They think because the editor helped them find an agent, then they've made it. And the reason they were told to find an agent is so somebody would mentor them to build platform because the writing was good. So good writing is not necessarily going to bring a contract in the bigger sense of the general market. You got to have the platform too. You got to have it. So I'll end with a sad note.
Oh no, no.
Costco is going to restrict book sales to holidays, which is going to be devastating because Costco, I don't even know this. Do you know Costco is the #2 bookseller in Canada?
No, but I knew they were big. I didn't know they were the number
They're,
two.
they're #2 and they're dropping it because it's too labor intensive because everything else you can just bring out on a forklift and leave it and take the plastic wrap off. Books you have to sell it individually and they don't want to do it. It's too labor intensive. They don't make enough money. So they're basically getting rid of book sales. So all those tables of books in the middle of Costco will be gone except for the holidays. And they're only going to bring out specific titles that they think will be attractive to busy moms who are shopping at Costco. So it is going to be a huge loss of book selling. And the reason why, other than the labor, is because big commercial sellers like Walmart and Myers and Target, they've all increased their book areas significantly. And so they have taken a large portion of the sales. So it's not, Costco's like, it's just not worth our time, because those moms also shop at Target, also shop at Walmart, also shop at these other places, and they're buying books there. It's sad. It doesn't mean anything negative. Those people are probably buying books at those other stores. That's why they're not at Costco, but it's sad. It's going to affect Canada significantly, but not so much as much in the US, but
Let's end on a happy note though.
yeah, sorry.
I've had too much heartache this week with my son.
Yeah.
All right, Sandra.
Happy note is
about Sandra's asking about the contest. So Kyle and I have been going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth on this. And yes, there will be a contest. We just don't have the details available yet.
Yep.
But they will be.
Yep.
I guess the happy note is that now that I'm back, we will be promoting the intensive in North Carolina. We keep it small. And the goal this year, we're doing it a little bit differently than the last couple of years. So we're going to have great classes, but almost all of them are going to be a little bit more in an intensive format, so that you're walking away with something tangible, whether that's the marketing class or picture books. I know I'm going to be teaching a picture book class where we're going to learn frameworks of different types of picture books, which I'm really excited to teach based on conversations I'm having with editors and seeing what's being picked up feedback wise and from my own clients. So I'm excited about that one. So we're just finalizing those details, and Serious Writer Club members and patrons get a discount and first chance to sign up, which is great because we keep it very small.
Great. We'll see you next week. More information soon. And yeah, thanks for being part of Serious Writer. More soon.
Bye,